Third force. The work teaches that there are three forces in every manifestation, however we see only two, if at all we manage to see as far as that. We do not see a third force because our formatory center works between opposites and everything, for it is either it is so or it is not so, either yes or no. The harmonizing of opposites lies in a mediation between them. Not that third force is simply a union of opposite forces. It is a distinct force to which we are not sensitive in ordinary states. It is called neutralizing force in this work, and the Holy Spirit in the New Testament. At the top of the universe is the unity of the Absolute. Creation begins with three forces, or the First Trinity, proceeding from this unity. These three forces are equal. At the bottom of the universe is the greatest antithesis to unity. Here the opposites are most widely separated and there is no third force to reconcile them. So the work speaks of the lowest matter in the table of hydrogens as being without the Holy Ghost. We can imagine what it would be like to be stuck in a world of that sort, at the lowest level of creation where there is no hope of harmonizing anything, or of reaching any new state. Simply randomness, chaos, and purgatory. Third force lies between the opposites, so we can picture it as the midpoint of a pendulum swinging. If we take the feeling of I out of both sides of a pendulum, then we no longer feel ourselves through opposites, and that feeling of I moves to the center, into nothingness, or more correctly into a state of not-somethingness. Here in the middle is the place or state where real I exists. Real I, or the Master, comes from above, from a higher level. We cannot reach it from one or the other opposites. This is why in ancient symbolism one finds two opposites on either side of a third force which lies in the middle, in the representations of the mysteries of rebirth. To attain real I is to be reborn. The allegory of Christ on the cross between two thieves. Or in the religion of Mithra, a rival to early Christianity, one finds the bull being slain between two opposites. The Liber Mutus depicts two animals on either side, and rays of light descending between them. An ancient and very simple depiction found on seals was the sun rising between two hills. The opposites can be regarded as thieves, because what we build on one side is undermined by the other. To put it differently, joy leads to sorrow. Whatever is built in the center cannot be taken from us. Let's take understanding as an example, where if we really understand something, if we have seen the truth of it and applied this to our personal experience, it lies in the middle, and stands in third force. Once attained, we can never lose it. The work teaches that there are three forces in all manifestations, in all events, in all created things which are called active, passive and neutralizing, or first, second and third forces. The concept of third force is yet unclear to science in any distinct way, save that to the positively and negatively charged particles of an atom, there has been added a neutron. Science was primarily built upon the concept of two forces, an action and reaction, which is in accordance with our usual way of thinking, according to our formatory center which cannot see third force. It cannot comprehend it, and so a new mindset is necessary, a new way of thinking. Action and reaction we can all understand, cause and effect we can see more or less. You knock a passive table and it resists you. Your toe is active and the table is passive, so you get hurt. The concept of third force, however, is more difficult to understand. Yet it is at work among us all, and sometimes takes the form of what appears as the miraculous, as synchronicity, or the same kinds of things happening together, which we call coincidence. Shifting focus to a word used by the work to designate this not seen and not acknowledged third force, then why it is called neutralizing force. Taking this point firstly, the term obviously contains the idea of neuter. So what does neuter mean? Neuter means in a dictionary sense, neither, from Latin ne uter. Of gender, neuter means neither male nor female. Of a verb it means neither active nor passive, and so intransitive, or not passing into a definite object. In general it means belonging to neither of two specified contraries, or to defined states. From neuter comes neutral, where neutral means politically to remain between two opposing parties. In chemistry, a neutral salt is neither acid nor alkaline. Militarily, to be neutral means to assist neither one side nor the other, and so to remain in a state of relative independence and freedom. In the science of electricity, it means having neither a positive nor a negative charge. In mechanics, it means a point where different forces are in equilibrium. Again, neutrality means the condition of being inclined neither way, an absence of extreme views, abstention from taking a one-sided viewpoint, and so on. Let's pass then from neuter and neutrality to the verb neutralizing. To neutralize, in a dictionary sense, means to render neither active nor passive, to counterbalance or render ineffective by means of an opposite force, to produce equilibrium. These dictionary definitions, however, only partially offer real meaning in which the term neutralizing force is used in this work. Unsurprisingly, because the terms, concepts, and ideas of work are not to be found in any dictionary. At the same time, many work phrases have reference to terms in ordinary usage. There is a correspondence, so when the work calls third force a neutralizing force, it means that its nature is such that it is neither active nor passive force, and is therefore quite distinct from them. So it is neuter in a dictionary sense of the word, i.e. neither, but though neither, it is definitely something. When a dictionary says that to neutralize can mean to counterbalance, to render ineffective by means of an opposite force, this is correct in a work sense, because sometimes the first effect of any neutralizing force appears as an increase of either active or passive force, so as to preserve equilibrium. However, neutralizing or third force is a separate and distinct force, originating from the first trinity or triad of forces, which create the first order of worlds at the note C in the ray of creation, then give rise to all subsequent levels of creation by reduplication through the note Do. In the first order of created worlds, 3 forces and no more act, so they reflect the will of the Absolute, but in 3 forms. In the second order of worlds, 6 forces, that is, 2 triads act, and so on, until the level of our lowly earth and its 48 forces or 16 triads, which then act, far removed from the will of the Absolute, and therefore mechanical in comparison. It is the interaction and crisscrossing of all these forces that produce both the complications and the mechanical limitations of our existence in this extremity of the universe. No freedom down here is possible, whatever social laws are made, because of these forces or laws. To speak of freedom is impossible. But someone in themselves, through work on self, can pass under fewer laws. In order that this might be possible, the first thing we must do is to remember ourselves. In life, a person does not remember themselves. It is from this point of view that we can now speak about third force. The point where an individual can begin to become more free lies between opposites, in the region of the center of a pendulum swing. Then by the act of remembering themselves they begin to approach this place, psychologically speaking. It would be impossible to describe all the different ways of remembering oneself, even if we knew them. The emotional realization of our position on this minute, basic and insignificant planet, of the unimportance of our personal existences, can bring about some degree of self-remembering. Sometimes simply looking externally at the heavens at night, at the myriads of stars in a clear sky, produces a momentary state akin to self-remembering, by withdrawing us from personal feelings. Everything that takes force from personality may bring about a trace of self-remembering. It is the recognition of a taste of that state which is important. For it is in this state, and only in this state, that help can reach us. The feeling of work and background to esoteric teaching can bring about a state of self-remembering, and it is to the development of that mental and emotional evaluation of this work that the power of self-remembering eventually belongs, apart from transient forms, induced more or less accidentally. An increased feeling of this work, as being stronger than everyday life, with all of its ups and downs, its to and fro between opposites, brings about a state of self-remembering that cannot be ascribed to chance, nor simply a fleeting experience. For a long time we mix the work with our associations, with mechanisms of personality which are driven by life and react to it automatically. This is inevitable, because only a gradual separation is possible. A person cannot be torn away from personality, like a band-aid, because it would destroy them, rendering them imbecilic. So even though we try to work, we identify with the reactions of our personality, which seem more distinct and real to us, or more natural, as we like to say. At the same time, we might know well enough that we should remember ourselves, even want to do so, but are unable to do so. We are unable to because we are identified with the reactions of personality, and view each incident, whatever it might be, through the filter of personality, through all the attitudes, buffers, associations, pretenses, pictures, negative emotions, and so on, through all the typical reactions that belong to us personally, to our acquired personality. We see things from a life point of view, and not from the work point of view. And this in spite of the fact that we are not forgetting the work, even trying sincerely to work. If we are identified with the reactions of our personality, then at the same time try to remember ourselves, we find it impossible. To be identified, and to be in a state of self-remembering, is impossible. It's not that the taste of each is contradictory. It is rather that the two states are incompatible. The more identified we are, the more we are in life under the mechanical laws of this planet. The more we find ourselves in a state of self-remembering, the more we fall under conscious influences. In the work, the idea of self-remembering, a third state of consciousness, where help can only reach us, is always given along with non-identifying. The work as third force reaches us only when we are relatively awake, in some degree of self-remembering. The original idea of prayer was to put us into a state of self-remembering, to let go of our troubles, to ask for help and acknowledge our powerlessness to do, in the light of being done to. Prayer or chanting in this sense is very difficult. To pray mechanically, or violently, even tragically, out of a sense of duty, even piously cannot yield results. Prayer can only be answered when all three centers cooperate. Our three centers can only cooperate when they are in focus, which is Zen, and that is only possible when we are somewhere in the middle of the pendulum swing, and not one-sided. The art of self-remembering is an attempt to put us somewhere in the middle of any swing. Being in the middle is to be in a state of self-remembering. Working on being identified is separating oneself, so that we are not swung from one side to the other. It can be said that self-remembering is striving to be in third force, that non-identifying is striving not to be in two opposing forces. When we try to act from one side or the other of a pendulum, as when we exclaim in life, "This is too much." When we act from identifying, we cannot expect anything more than our usual action-reaction work of opposites. I hit you, then you hit me, then I hit you back again, and so on endlessly. For a longer or shorter period I triumph, then by the mechanical swing of things, you triumph, and so on. Now you are first, now I am first. Now I am on the top, now you are on the top. This is life, swinging between opposites. This is going up the hill, and that is tumbling down, just as in nursery rhymes. In all this play of opposites there is no solution. That is why life is called in the work, insoluble. We have only the satisfaction of opposites, which are thieves. Take for instance jealousy, and its unpleasant triumphs. This satisfaction, of triumph over our opponent, is transient. If however we work on our mechanical reactions, we begin to escape from the two-cylinder engine of life, in which one piston is always moving up, and the other down, then vice versa. When we feel the strange force of this work, we begin to understand that we cannot solve difficulties by any one-sided and therefore violent action. However, this takes a great deal of time and labor to realize. To reach anything like solutions, we have to learn how to move in one direction a short way, and then change into the opposite direction a short distance, until one finally gets into the middle, finding the point of rest. This is very difficult. But by this method we can reach third force, in which both good and truth lie. The real meaning, and therefore solution. At this point we can experience inner silence, stillness, clarity, and peace. In working on yourself and noticing how the swings of the pendulum go, how now we think or feel this, and now think or feel the opposite, and in not identifying with either side, as far as is possible at one's present stage, there will encounter something in the work described as inner silence. Different eyes, ranged along the orbit of the swing, wish to say now this, and then that, as the light of consciousness touches their awareness, awakening them to momentary life. To a limited extent one may permit them to speak, provided we have the distinct notion that neither side is right. Inner silence means silence in oneself. It means not taking sides in yourself, and so being silent. This is impossible if you identify with every I. You may permit mental chatter on one side or the other, without suppressing it, but observe and remain passive in yourself, playing the role of silent witness. This teaching is about reaching the middle of a pendulum, where third force can touch us. The objective of self-remembering is to reach precisely this place, which is neither one nor the other of opposites, but a new experience and so a new consciousness, and a more objective understanding. All identifying belongs to opposites.